bunch of devil worshippers in Hollywood. And there's a lot of black folks too. And they be throwing up them signs. You see them, this, that, all of them. Watch the rappers, watch them folks. It's scary.
Beyonce is the top earning woman in music. She makes around $105 million, or at least she did last year. So along with all those riches, fame also brings bizarre allegations, like the lady who went to court accusing Beyonce of practicing extreme witchcraft.
Beyonce sure can cast a spell with her performances. But is she also practicing witchcraft? In head-scratching court papers, Kimberly Thompson, a former drummer for the singer's all-girl band, is accusing Beyonce of, get this, extreme witchcraft and magic spells and the murder of my pet cat. She's actually filed a restraining order against the star. Sounds kooky, right? And that's probably why a judge immediately denied Thompson's request for a restraining order. There's always been whispers that Beyonce belongs to some kind of secret society. They point to hand signals like this as an example of her communicating cryptic messages. But the accusations of witchcraft take things to a whole new strange level.
Do you record while the bus is moving, or does it have to come to a stop?
Yeah, well, sometimes they don't want to, and they're, Gaga, we can't get, the frequency's weird, and, it's sounding a little bit strange, and I'm like, if you don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer, I'm gonna, I get a little bit mad. I had this dream quite recently that was so terrifying, so morbid and terrifying, and I called Deepak Chopra, who I work with, and I was telling him my dream, terrified, that the devil, and the dream was so terrifying, I thought somehow a devil force was trying to take hold of me, a darkness. I guess I see devil and darkness as the same thing.
Where are we?
No, I mean, I like that kind too.
Sure.
But I'm talking more the magic that we experience in life. Whether it's love or a drunken evening,
Yep.
dancing till the sun rises, making out with a ghost.
Do you think some people are more kind of prone to things like that happening to them than others?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm prone to that because
Yeah.
I'm very open to the supernatural. I've experienced multiple ghosts in my life, or supernatural energies, whatever you want to call them. So it's just like the symbolism and the occult is kind of always in the peripheral. I am definitely drawn to the occult.
You ever look at music that you've written and look back at it and say, whoa, that surprised me?
I used to. I don't do that anymore. I don't know how I got to write those songs.
What do you mean you don't know how?
Well, those early songs were like almost magically written. Darkness at the break of noon, shadows even the silver spoon, a handmade blade, a child's balloon.
Eclipses both the sun and moon. To understand you knew too soon, there is no sense in trying.
Well, try to sit down and write something like that. There's a magic to that, and it's not Siegfried and Roy kind of magic. It's a different kind of a penetrating magic. And I did it. I did it at one time.
You don't think you can do it today? Does that disappoint you?
Well, you can't do something forever, and I did it once, and I can do other things now, but I can't do that.
Give me the truth, all right? This is my God's honest truth, okay? When I look back at our music, right, there are certain songs that I'll be the next day, I'll be at the studio next day reading the lyrics before I go into the booth, and I'm like, I have no recollection of writing this song. I did not write this song, And some of it, I'm laughing at it, or I'm like, oh, that's dope. And I know I did not write this, yet supposedly that's supposed to be for me. And I know in my heart and soul, that's not for me. Like, I never had a fascination with horror movies. I never had a fascination with carnivals. Did you? I mean,
Not at all.
It was never our about it, And somehow, certain elements to our music were ghostwritten by this presence that we've
by
named
a spirit,
the Dark
by the
Carnival.
power.
You know, we name it.
Yeah.
And I think the same presence, okay, like for example, you know, Michael Jackson used to say, we're huge Michael Jackson fans, by the way. Michael Jackson used to say, when, you know, he would call his producer at 4 a.m. and be like, hey, make this beat. And he would be, you know, beatboxing it out, and the producer would be like yawning, oh, Mike, can't we do this in the morning? And he used to joke and say, no, because when the inspirations, when you get the messages from above, you've got to take them and work on them now, or they might give it to Prince. That's what Michael Jackson used to say. And,
I love that. And
so I
they
think
will.
a lot of people that are artists of any kind of way, whether it's music like us, or it's, you know, painting a picture, anything, I think if they're successful and they've got people coming up to them saying wonderful things, you know, some of it, you know, you can't take credit for what they're saying.
Now here's some real folklore about Gangsta's Paradise. I never picked up my pen. I wrote Gangsta's Paradise out like I already knew it. It was a divine intervention.
It really is kind of crazy how that thing all came together.
You know, I gotta say it like this. I didn't even write Gangsta's Paradise. Gangsta's Paradise wrote me, bruh. I was an instrument. And the song was the entity, and it was like this. And it wrote itself.
Today's music is powered by an unprecedented technology and popularized by the largest, wealthiest, and most leisure generation in history. Music has changed the modern world in ways more profound than any other social phenomenon. Evidence of its impact is all around us. Music has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. It might seem inconsequential, but music can definitely have a powerful impact on both the culture from which it is born and the society in which it is released. Science confirms that humans are hardwired to respond to music. Scientific research has shown that music activates more portions of the brain than any other human activity. Today, people are submerged in music. It's everywhere we go. It's in our cars. It's with us at the gym or while shopping in stores. Music can bring about every emotion of the human mind. It's no wonder that music has such a powerful effect on our culture. But is that effect being used in a positive or negative way? And are there unseen forces directing this powerful art form? Many philosophers and politicians through history have recognized the power of music and how it can be used to change culture and influence ideas. Communist leader and founder of the Soviet Union, Vladimir Lenin, said, "One quick way to destroy a society is through its music." According to Plato, music is able to bypass reason and penetrate the soul. He said because more than anything else, rhythm and harmony find their way into the innermost soul and take the strongest hold upon it. Dr. Richard Pellegrino, medical consultant to the entertainment industry, said in an article to Billboard magazine that he had researched how music can impact the brain and says it produces endorphin highs and can trigger a flood of emotions and images that have the ability to instantaneously produce very powerful changes in emotional states. He closes his commentary with, "Take it from a brain guy. In 25 years of working with the brain, I still cannot affect a person's state of mind the way that one simple song can." Harvard professor Henry Longfellow famously said, "Music is the universal language of mankind." And this would go well with what Socrates once said, "When the soul hears music, it drops its best guard." That might be one of the best descriptions of the power that music has. With music, it is possible to open a door into the heart of the listener. Once inside, the musician can either enhance the interior of the soul or desecrate it in the worst ways. Music can be for healing the soul or for damaging the soul. Studies have shown that music can cause the brain to release dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that controls the brain's reward and pleasure centers. Dopamine is the same nerve that gets released when having sex, eating, or taking addictive drugs such as cocaine. It's what makes things pleasurable. Music can be addictive, and Dr. Adam Nasty studied the influence of music on people and said, "It's really a powerful drug. Music can poison you. lift your spirits, or make you sick without knowing why. When reading the Bible, there's a biblical interpretive method known as the principle of first mention. This means when you see something used in the Bible for the first time, it can have a special significant meaning. In Genesis 4:21, we see the lineage of Cain, which is a symbol of rebellion. In Cain's lineage, we find music mentioned for the first time, and it's in association with Cain's offspring who disregarded God's word.
And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ.
The Bible says that music existed before Cain's lineage. In Ezekiel 28:13, we find the creation story of Lucifer, and it says he had every beautiful covering stone. Then it says he had the workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes. The word tabret is where we get the word tambourine from. It's a musical instrument or ability. Lucifer was given the gift of music when he was created.
Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes were prepared in thee in the day thou wast created.
God says he created Lucifer with tabrets and pipes in him. In essence, he was given special musical abilities when he was created. Lucifer was a cherubim angel. He stood in the very presence of God as the highest-ranking angel. Many theologians believe Lucifer was the leader of God's worship service in heaven. Satan's talents in music is beyond our comprehension. Having this gift, Satan would know how to use music in a destructive way. But even worse, he could use it against you negatively without you even realizing it's having adverse effects on you. In the book of 1 Samuel, we have a story that gives us a glimpse into the power of music. In this story, when God's Spirit left King Saul because of his consistent disobedience, an evil spirit came to harass him. One of the remedies to drive away the demon was music.
But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. And Saul's servant said unto him, Behold now, an evil spirit from God troubleth thee. Let our Lord now command thy servants which are before thee to seek out a man who is a cunning player on an harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp, and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed, and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him.
This story demonstrates that music is spiritually significant. If pleasant divine music can drive away an evil spirit, then it would be safe to conclude that other kinds of nefarious music could attract them and have serious consequences. This is exactly what we see through history. For thousands of years, shamans have channeled spirits using the beating of drums and music. Demonic possession has always played a key aspect in tribal religious ceremonies. Many do not realize this is where rock and roll is derived from. The tribal music came over on the slave trades, then over time developed into blues and later became rock and roll. We also see similar practices with the Greeks. They also had rituals using music and dancing to channel spirits. Ancient Greek philosophers wrote about spirits that would possess people and inspire them to make music and poetry. These spirits were called muses, and this is where we get the word music from today. Historians and archaeologists say that possession by muses plays a major role in the Greek arts. Greek philosopher Plato wrote about possession being a key aspect to the arts. He said the third type of possession and madness is possession by muses. But if a man comes to the door of poetry, quite untouched by the madness of the muses, believing that technique alone will make him a good poet, he and his sane compositions never reach perfection. They are instead utterly eclipsed by the performances of the possessed man. The Greek philosophers understood the arts they were witnessing was coming from a more powerful spiritual source. They identified what they referred to as different types of madness or possession. The inspiration could come in different forms, such as dreams, thoughts, or some artists said they heard actual voices giving them directions. The famous Greek poet Hesiod, who lived around 750 BC, tells how he received his gift as a poet and musician. He said while tending his flocks, a spirit he called a muse breathed into him and inspired him with the art of divine music. What kind of message did the muses tell Hesiod? They said, "We know how to tell many lies that look like genuine things, but we also know, when we will, how to proclaim things that are true." End quote. I could literally give hours of quotes from artists in history who said spirits inspired them. It's very interesting that musicians today are saying something similar. As we saw in the beginning of the video, popular musicians said their music was coming from a spiritual power. Like Bob Dylan, for example, recognized that he could not write lyrics like he did when he was younger. He said it was like a magic that helped him write those songs. Then he said it was not a Siegfried and Roy type of magic. Coolio, who wrote the award-winning single Gangster's Paradise, said the lyrics just flowed out of him like he already knew the song before he wrote it. Most of these artists do not realize that the spiritual power that's guiding them is demonic. Satan is called the prince of the power of the air, and these artists are just pawns that he uses to captivate the masses and change the culture. As we saw in the previous episodes, the popular occultist Aleister Crowley has had a huge impact on music and film. Although he died in 1947, his writings became very popular among rock musicians during the 60s. Crowley is considered the most influential Satanist of the 20th and 21st century and is called the father of Satanism. Crowley declared war on Christianity and said that religion they call Christianity, the devil they honor they call God. It is their God and their religion that I hate and will destroy. Crowley was a 33rd degree Freemason, along with many other things he practiced, like yoga, Buddhism, Hinduism, and black magic. He encouraged people to practice voodoo and ancient Greek rituals to invoke spirits. In Italy, Mussolini had him deported for practicing human sacrifices. Crowley practiced witchcraft and believed in child sacrificing to obtain power from Satan. He also created his own secret society and religion called Thelema. In the last episode, we saw that artists like David Bowie, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, The Doors, the Beach Boys, and many others followed Crowley and credited their fame to his teachings. Crowley said in his writings, "If one follows my black magic, I can enable him to be a genius in music." Many artists participate in Crowley's black magic for the purpose of success. His goal was to target the youth, and he said, "Use music and an army of youth to bring in the new age." Crowley believed he could target the youth and use music to change culture, and he wanted to get rid of Christianity and Western society. It is surprisingly shocking to find out how many artists have some connection with Crowley. Most of these artists keep their practices of Crowley's magic rituals a secret, but when we examine the symbolism used in their videos or stage performances, it becomes obvious who is really behind their music. One iconic artist that is blatantly using satanic symbols is Lady Gaga. She is known for her flamboyant costumes and provocative lyrics. She has become one of the most recognizable pop singers in the world. In Lady Gaga's case, truth is indeed stranger than fiction. She has openly admitted to being possessed by spirit entities that have influenced her music. She has stated that she has embraced her satanic nightmares as the inspiration behind her songs. Gaga glorifies occult symbolism in her stage performances, and her continual use of satanic imagery like the Egyptian Eye of Horus or the wearing of Baphomet horns further reveals where her allegiance is. In 2013, Lady Gaga worked with and became close friends with Marina Abramovic, who was no stranger to the occult and esoteric world. Abramovic, quite like Gaga, likes to dress up as a witch and adorn herself with goat heads, devil horns, and all sorts of satanic symbolism. Marina has ties to many powerful people, including musicians, actors, and politicians. Marina Abramovic has documented herself practicing a satanic ritual known as spirit cooking. In the video, she uses some of the ingredients from Aleister Crowley's Book of the Law. The ritual is Crowley's way of mocking the Last Supper Jesus had with the apostles. Lady Gaga praises the satanic spirit cooker for her disturbing art.
Marina, I think you are so wonderful, so beautiful and inspiring, and as a woman, I want to translate what her work means into my own life on a domestic level. I am obsessed with this woman. She is so incredible.
What makes the ritual all the more sinister is when we read from Aleister Crowley himself of the ingredients suggested for spirit cooking. The best blood is of the moon, monthly. He is speaking of a woman's cycle. Then the fresh blood of a child, or a dropping from the host of heaven. Then of the enemies, then of the priest or of the worshippers. Last of some beast. No matter what, this burn. Of this make cakes and eat unto me. Crowley's book was written using a method known as automatic writing. He said a spirit named Aiwass dictated to him what to write, which later Crowley revealed was Satan himself. Satan channels through Crowley, letting him know he desires child sacrifices. In the spirit cooking video, there's a childlike statue in the corner, which Marina Abramovic splashes with pig's blood. In an MTV article about Lady Gaga, it says she believes she is being haunted by an annoying ghost called Ryan. According to MTV, the poker-faced singer has been so terrified by the spirit that she held a seance over the weekend while in Ireland in an effort to rid herself of the ghost. Gaga thinks this is the spirit of someone who has died, but as we saw in the previous episodes, the Bible is very clear that the dead cannot communicate with the living. The spirits haunting her are demons, and her actions, music, and lifestyle is attracting them. A member of Gaga's touring crew told the reporter, "She's been telling us all for months that she has a male spirit called Ryan who travels the world with her. She's pretty terrified by the spirit, but more than anything, he's annoying her, as he won't leave her alone. He hasn't been doing anything too violent or scary, but she's freaked out by his presence." They added, "She's a very spiritual person and in tune with the spiritual world, but this is a step too far even for her." In another article, Lady Gaga describes to a reporter that another spirit possesses her named Joanne. Gaga believes the spirit to be her dead aunt and said the spirit inspires her music. She said, "I realized my father's sister Joanne, who died at age 19, had instilled her spirit in me. She was a painter and a poet, and I had a spiritual vision that I had to finish her business." Lady Gaga tells Rolling Stone magazine that the devil is trying to take her over. She then gives details about a reoccurring dream. She says, "I have this reoccurring dream sometimes. There's a phantom in my home, and he takes me into a room, and there's a blonde girl with ropes tied to all four of her limbs, and the ropes are pulling her apart. But then it gets stranger. I never see her get pulled apart, but I just watch her whimper, and then the phantom says to me, 'If you want me to stop hurting her, you will cut your wrist.'" The article goes on to say Gaga was confused by her dream and turns to other sources to find out its meaning. She says, "So I looked up the dream, and I couldn't find anything about it anywhere. And my mother goes, 'Isn't that an Illuminati ritual?' And I was like, 'Oh my God.'" She then admits her nightmares inspire her eccentric stage performances. She says, "I do have morbid dreams, but I put them in the show. A lot of the work I do is an exorcism for the fans, but also for myself." Gaga couldn't be any clearer that spirits are guiding her music. In 2012, according to the staff at a London's Intercontinental Hotel, Lady Gaga left her room's bathtub filled with blood. Her room's housekeeper stated, and I quote, that Gaga was bathing in blood as part of a satanic ritual. The MTV article stated, the eccentric singer reportedly shocked staff when she checked out of a London's lavish Intercontinental Hotel last summer, and they discovered a pool of blood in the bathtub of her suite. One housekeeper claimed the pop star was bathing in blood as part of a satanic ritual. The hotel staff told a reporter, and I quote, "Lady Gaga left large amounts of blood in the suite during a stay this summer. The incident was reported to management, but she was told by the manager to put it out of her mind," end quote. Few people have reached the level of fame like pop icons in the 20th and 21st century. Fans around the world worship and idolize these individuals, but this usually comes at a severe price. It seems the higher one climbs on the fame ladder, the more bizarre they become. One such celebrity is Michael Jackson. Dubbed the King of Pop, he is regarded as one of the most significant cultural figures of the 20th century. Over a 4-decade career, his contributions to music, dance, and fashion, along with his publicized personal life, made him the most recognizable pop singer of all time. Michael Jackson is certified and known as the most awarded and nominated recording artist in the history of popular music. Michael Jackson is another artist who has admitted to being guided by spirit entities. These spirits have used Michael to influence the impressionable youth around the world. Jackson said, and I quote, "I don't do very many things until a certain force tells me to do them. The force tells me when, and then I make my move." Michael Jackson has admitted to contacting spirits using a similar method as Satanist Aleister Crowley. Crowley had a special secret room filled with mirrors where he practiced black magic and summoned demonic entities. Michael Jackson, like Crowley, also used the same technique, a room filled with mirrors where Jackson said he communicates with the dead spirit of Lee Liberace, a musician who died in 1987. Jackson said, and I quote, "I have my own secret room with a moving wall and mirrors. That's where I talk to Lee. His voice I hear in there. I feel his presence so very close to me." Then Michael says, "The spirit Lee is like my guardian angel. He's even given me permission to record his theme song, 'I'll Be Seeing You,'" end quote. The Bible is very clear that the dead cannot communicate with the living. The spirits that are influencing Michael Jackson are demonic spirits. It's interesting that Michael Jackson was friends with Paul McCartney early in his career, who we saw in the last episode was fascinated by Satanist Aleister Crowley. The Beatles had pictures of Crowley on their Sgt. Pepper album cover. You can often see Jackson wearing the Sgt. Pepper-like soldier attire when he has accepted all of his awards. Jackson was associated with many other musicians who also followed Crowley. Jackson said spirits inspire him in his dreams. He said, and I quote, "I wake up from dreams and go, wow, put this down on paper. The whole thing is strange. You hear the words, everything is right there in front of your face, and you say to yourself, I'm sorry, I just didn't write this. It's there already. I feel that somewhere, someplace, it's all been done, and I'm a courier bringing it into the world." Michael Jackson said on many occasions that his music comes from the spirit world, that his songs are not his own creation. Michael, like other artists, do not realize these are demonic spirits. Listen to this interview clip where Michael says the music comes from above and he has to get out of the way of the inspiration, that the music writes itself.
How do you write a song? How do you write a song?
How do I write a song? Well,
you don't have a pen in your hand and you don't try. What would happen?
If I sat here and played some chords, whatever, and say, I'm going to write the best song I've ever written, nothing happens. Something in the heavens has to say, look, this is the time that this is going to be laid on you, and this is when I want you to have it. Now, I remember when I wrote Billie Jean, I was riding in my car down Ventura Boulevard. All I said to myself beforehand, I want to write a song with a great bass hook, you know, and I just let it go, really. And then several days later, you know, the whole
Where did that come from?
From above.
So,
really
okay, you were singing the bass line. Sing that again, and then what happened? How did you get the other instrumentation and the composition? How did it work?
See, the thing is, artists seem to get in the way of the music. Get out of the way of the music. You know, don't write the music. Let the music write itself.
The dance.
During an interview with Oprah Winfrey, she asked, "Why do you always grab your crotch?" Michael answered, "I think it happens subliminally. So if I'm doing a movement and I go bam and grab myself, it's the music that compels me to do it. I'm not thinking, okay, I'm going to grab down there and it's not a great place. I don't think about it, it just happens. Sometimes I'll look back at the footage and I'll go, did I really do that? So I'm a slave to the rhythm." To lose control of oneself is another key aspect of demonic possession. And Michael Jackson's dances are similar to what scholars have seen in other cultures, especially in voodoo, where shamans use music and dancing to channel spirits. Like Michael Jackson, the shamans do not realize these spirits are not spirits of their dead ancestors, but they are really demons using them to change culture and to communicate with people. Throughout history, Satan has used mediums to interact with humans. Here's what a professor and doctor of musicology said. He has studied music and voodoo in other cultures for many years, and he said, voodooists establish and maintain contact with cosmic entities they call Aiwa, which are demons. Among many elements used, music and dance are the most visible vehicles for achieving contact. The Aiwa not only shape the music and the dance, they shape all aspects of the people's lives and vice versa. Possession is first and foremost a means of communication. It is through singing, playing of the drums, and dancing that voodooists establish contact with the spirits. Michael Jackson describes experiences on stage like voodoo possession. He stated, "When I hit the stage, it's all of a sudden a magic from somewhere that comes, and the spirit just hits you, and you just lose control of yourself." The pop star really showed his occult ties when in 2003, CBS, CNN, and Vanity Fair magazine all published an article about Michael Jackson performing a voodoo ritual. According to the articles, Jackson wanted Steven Spielberg and music mogul David Geffen dead, along with 23 other people on Jackson's hit list. The report said he got a witch doctor to put a curse on them. The magazine says, and I quote, Jackson paid $150,000 to an African voodoo chief named Baba who chanted, "David Geffen be gone, Steven Spielberg be gone." Jackson reportedly spent another 6 figures to take a bath in sheep's blood because that was supposed to make the curse stronger. This sounds eerily similar to the story about Lady Gaga bathing in blood. The article stated, and I quote, Jackson, who underwent a bloodbath as part of a ritual, then ordered his former business advisor, Mi-Young-Ho Lee, to wire $150,000 to a bank in Mali for a voodoo chief named Baba, who sacrificed 42 cows for the ceremony. The same Vanity Fair article goes on to say that Jackson has paid other voodoo chiefs large sums of money to perform black magic rituals. A large part of the payment, according to the magazine, goes to purchase the animals that they will sacrifice for the ceremonies. Satanist Aleister Crowley encouraged voodoo black magic in his books and told musicians that if one follows my black magic, I can enable him to be a genius in music. Many artists participate in Crowley's black magic for the purpose of success and to invoke spirits for musical inspiration. It's also very interesting that Aleister Crowley worshipped and was obsessed with the Greek god Pan, so much that he wrote poems about Pan and spoke of him in his literature. The Greek god Pan could inspire music. He's often depicted playing the pan flute and is the god of sexual deviance, rape, and torture. Michael Jackson placed a voodoo curse on Steven Spielberg because he denied Michael the chance to play Peter Pan's character in a movie. The Disney character Peter Pan is based on the writings of J.M. Barrie's books, and he based them on the Greek god Pan. Accusations were brought against the author, Barrie, of child molestation. Barrie's books say very creepy, horrific things about children, and it's very strange that Disney would turn these into movies. According to the Greek myth, Pan is known for his sexual perversion. This is why the modern depictions of him in cartoons and movies show him corrupting the female characters. Pan's appearances in films like Chronicles of Narnia are simply eerie. For example, when Mr. Tumnus, the Pan character, takes a little girl Lucy back to his place and serves her an hallucinogenic drink, then he begins to play the Pan pipes and she passes out. After she wakes up, Mr. Tumnus is crying as if he did something to her while she was sleeping. Disney's whitewashed version of Pan toned down the sexual perversion, but still retains the devil-like attributes. Peter Pan entices little children to leave their parents and go to a place with no rules. You just have to leave home behind and never come back. This is the same lie that Lucifer told the angels in heaven. Don't you want to go to a place where you never have to follow the rules? Pan's friends, interestingly, are called the Lost Boys and are taken to a place where selfishness and Crowley's philosophy of do what thou wilt are the only rules. Michael Jackson was so obsessed with Peter Pan that he built his own private theme park and called it Neverland. Like Aleister Crowley, Michael had a very creepy interest in the god Pan, and in his home studio he had a painting of himself surrounded by young naked boys. The painting depicts Michael as the god Pan, holding a pan flute. In 1993, Michael Jackson was accused of molesting 3 different children. One was a 13-year-old boy named Jordan Chandler. Michael befriended him and his mom and started flying them around the world to stay with him while he was on tour. Michael talked the mother into letting the boy sleep in the same bed with him, and he did so for many months. In Jackson's bedroom, police noted that Michael had a security system in place that would alarm him when people were walking to his bedroom, like staff or maids.
Ex-cop Robert Wagner was Jackson's head of security.
When I first started working at Neverland, I thought it was a paradise, really a beautiful place to work.
One of Wagner's duties was keeping a record of who slept where.
During my tenure at the ranch, which was 3 years, December to December, 1990 to 93, there was in excess of 100 children that were listed in Michael's bedroom.
The police discovered that the corridor leading to Jackson's bedroom was fitted with sensors.
If you got near his bedroom, noisemakers would go off in the bedroom and let him know that people were getting near.
We believed the boy. The boy was credible. And not only did my officers believe them, but every time he was interviewed, he was consistent in his statements.
Officers armed with search warrants raided Jackson's ranch north of Santa Barbara.
You go into Mr. Jackson's bedroom. It's a very large room, a lot of stuffed animals, a lot of things that would be attractive to children. One item that we found in a locked filing cabinet was a book showing nude boys in nude poses. It's not illegal. It's a book that I've seized in other investigations. If it's a person who has this material, who has a sexual interest in children, it becomes child erotica.
The case in 1993 against Michael was dropped because he settled with the family out of court for $23 million. Recently, another documentary has come out called Leaving Neverland, where 2 boys who are now men describe the devastating, horrific acts done to them by Michael Jackson. Many people are unaware that Jackson was a practicing occultist. Throughout his career, he left hints to where his music really came from. Aleister Crowley had a book called 777 about practicing Kabbalah and black magic. On Michael Jackson's album cover, History, you can see a reference to Crowley's Book of Magic on Michael's sleeve, where the title of Crowley's book, 777, appears. Aleister Crowley encouraged rituals called sex magic, where in many cases he openly admitted to abusing young children during the ceremonies. All of Crowley's rituals, like spirit cooking and sex magic, were for the purpose of invoking spirits. Michael Jackson was practicing black magic and relied on demonic spirits for musical inspiration. Like other artists, he became increasingly more harassed by demons, to the point that he could not sleep at night. He was known to stay awake for days at a time. This ultimately led to his death when in 2009 he overdosed on propofol, trying to quiet the harassing voices that he heard at night. In the last episode, we talked about the rock bands arising out of the psychedelic movement of the 1960s, having connections to the occult and Aleister Crowley. Bands ever since have been aware that if they practice Crowley's magic rituals, they can invoke spirits for musical inspiration, but it comes with serious consequences. One of the most famous record producers in the world has encouraged his talents to seek the spiritual world for inspiration. The infamous Rick Rubin, producer and former co-president of Columbia Records. He also co-founded Def Jam Records with Russell Simmons, Rick has become the most sought-after producer in popular music. In 1983, Rick borrowed $5,000 from his parents to start the Def Jam label in his New York University dorm room. Soon he was working with some of the most recognizable names in popular music. Rick has multiple Grammys with artists like Johnny Cash to Justin Timberlake. Even if you do not recognize the name, you have listened to music that he has produced. Rick Rubin is known in the music industry as a spiritual shaman. The artists go to his studio for spiritual inspiration. While Jay-Z was recording at Rubin's house, the camera shows one of the books he and Jay-Z were into, a book on white and black magic. Jay-Z, of course, has been seen with Aleister Crowley's Do What Thou Wilt on his shirt, showing his interest in Crowley's black magic. Rick Rubin's library is filled with occult books on topics like how to channel spirits and transcendental meditation. He is very aware of the spiritual aspect of music, but what he is not aware of is he is channeling demons, not ghosts of dead people. The Bible is clear that the dead cannot communicate with the living. Rick Rubin purchased a house which everyone refers to as the mansion, used for recording music. The mansion is considered haunted by spirits. Rubin and all the bands that record there assume it's haunted by ghosts of people who have died, not realizing these are demonic spirits. In 1991, the band Red Hot Chili Peppers came to Rubin to record their most popular album at the mansion.
This way. The Chili Peppers' last album, 1989's Mother's Milk, was a surprising success. So for the follow-up, they're enlisting help from the spiritual world and recording in an old haunted house instead of a regular studio, which is one thing we learned when we dropped by the other day.
The house, by the way, is an ancient Hollywood ruin, and it's, of course, haunted.
We had these psychics that came up here, and at one point they said that they saw a lady in black walking in the back, and she was a ghost. The lady ghost in the house lives up in the tower right up there. That's the only way to get to it. And we're all scared to go up there. This is the world famous Rick Rubin, my favorite record producer in the whole world. He's a long-haired hippie love child who just wants to hang out and make beautiful music for the people and for all the kids and make everybody happy, and it's a wonderful thing.
We're trying to set up an environment to make a cooler than average record. And so far, it is successful. I think it's an unusual sounding record. I don't think it's a typical, compared to the other records that are going to come out this year, this is going to sound a lot different.
Rick Rubin encouraged the Chili Peppers to record at his haunted mansion to invoke spirits that would inspire the music. The album named Blood Sugar Sex Magic references Aleister Crowley's magic rituals. Crowley spelled magic with a K at the end, and you'll notice this spelling used with many other popular artists. The blood sugar part of the title references spirit cooking spells, as we saw at the beginning of the video with Marina Abramovic. By including Crowley's black magic in the title of the Chili Peppers album, I'm not shocked it was one of the highest selling albums of all time. As Crowley said, if one follows my black magic, I can enable him to be a genius in music. The guitarist of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, John Frusciante, admits he's into practicing Crowley's black magic. Lead guitarist John Frusciante said more than a few of his songs are inspired by Crowley. He said, and I quote, "Emptiness, I'm Around, and 666 were all written while I was reading a biography about Aleister Crowley. Each of these three songs, in their own way, are the result of me thinking about him and his life." John Frusciante had practiced Crowley's black magic for so long that he could no longer get the demon voices out of his head. Like other artists who dabble in black magic, they become increasingly more harassed by the spirits they are invoking and are not able to control the situation. He said, and I quote, "I wasn't spiritually protected against the spirits that meant me no good. Ghosts that are there just to blank with me and drive me crazy. I couldn't discern between them and the ones that were helping me, and I was so confused. Everything that I was learning seemed to be pulling me towards death." John Frusciante thought that the spirits guiding him were ghosts of dead people, not realizing these were demonic spirits. These artists reject what the Bible teaches and have fallen for other false religions. Then Satan can easily deceive them and use their music to influence the impressionable youth.
For to him that is joined to all the living there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they shall die, But the dead know not anything, neither have they any more a reward. For the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love and their hatred and their envy is now perished. Neither have they any more a portion forever in anything that is done under the sun.
One of Satan's most powerful delusions is making people think that when someone dies, their spirit can continue on earth. This contradicts what the Bible says, that the dead know not anything and have no portion forever in anything that is done under the sun. When talking about Rick Rubin's mansion and the Chili Peppers recording their album there, John Frusciante said, "There are definitely ghosts in that house." Drummer of the Chili Peppers, Chad Smith, was so scared of the ghost, he refused to stay the night in the mansion and left every afternoon, then returning again in the morning. Anthony Kiedis said, "We had heard that the property was haunted by a woman who was murdered there in the 30s, and that didn't sit well with him, so he opted to ride his motorcycle home each night." At the mansion recording studio, Rick Rubin encouraged the artist to practice an occult technique called transcendental meditation. This method was used and made popular in the United States by the Beatles in the 60s. They are seeking an altered state of consciousness which opens their minds up to demonic spirits. Rick Rubin said, "All the time I bought transcendental meditation for artists, and I made albums where we would meditate before each session. When we made Californication, we meditated before each session." The Bible encourages meditation, but it says to meditate on God's law, His holy character, or to meditate on the Word of God. The type of meditation Rick Rubin is encouraging is directing their thoughts towards a spirit that is not God. They are worshiping the creation and not the Creator. By seeking this altered state of consciousness, they are opening a door to a very dark spiritual force. In 2004, another blatantly satanic band made its way to Rick Rubin's mansion, named Slipknot. After their stay at the mansion, they would go on to produce platinum record sales. Lead singer Corey Taylor told a story about what set the tone for their album at the mansion. Torrey said when he was showering in his room, an apparition appeared that seemed to be wearing a tuxedo. He said it scared him so bad he let out a scream. He went on to say they saw many spirits in the house during their 6-month stay. When asked about it, Corey Taylor said, "Oh, it's haunted. You can put the rumors to rest because I've seen it and I've dealt with it for 6 months. I've got some stories that would raise the hair on the back of your neck, and that's no blank. That's not just for press. It's so weird. I don't even like talking about it. Me and Sean shared 2 adjacent rooms, and written on the phone jack box was a warning, in case of paranormal activity, dial this number or 911. That's the level of insanity we dealt with, but we love that vibe. You can really feel it on the album. There were ghosts in the machine, in the equipment. Things would freeze and things would loop for no reason at all." End quote. Many artists have spoken about the spirits at Rick Rubin's mansion. Another artist and lead singer of the Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, said when making their album Medicine at Midnight, they experienced supernatural activities. He said, "When we first came to see the house, the vibe was definitely off. We knew that it was a bit creepy. You know, some people believe in ghosts, some people don't. Some people are receptive to bad vibrations, some people are not. But when we walked into this place, it was undeniable that there were cold spots. You had that feeling in the back of your neck like someone was standing right behind you watching you. I've lived in a house in Seattle that actually had a ghost in it. Things would move. You would hear footsteps. But the worst part was when you were downstairs in the house, you felt like someone was right blanking behind you. And at night, when you closed your eyes, you felt like someone's face was right next to yours. That's really blanked me up." Then Dave says, "Anyway, so when we walked into the house, the mansion, I knew the vibes were definitely off, but the sound was blanking on. So we started working there, and it wasn't long before things started happening. We would come back to the studio the next day, and all the guitars would be detuned, or the settings we had put on the board the night before, all of them had gone back to 0. It got to the point where I brought one of those Nest cams that I still have at my home for when my kids would sleep in their cribs. I set it up overnight so that we could see if there was anyone there or anyone was coming to blank around with us. At first, nothing. And right around the time we thought we were ridiculous and we were out of our minds, We started to see things on the Nest cams that we couldn't explain. Then we found out the history of the house. I had to sign a blanking non-disclosure agreement with the landlord because he's trying to sell the place. So I can't give away what happened there in the past, but these multiple occurrences over a short period of time made us finish the album as quickly as we could. Artists are very aware of the spiritual aspect of music, and they are purposely invoking these spirits for musical inspiration. I cannot express in words how spiritually significant music is to the mind. Our youth are especially vulnerable to music. The melodies combined with destructive lyrics are designed to give subliminal suggestions. Music can affect your emotions and your intellect at the same time, making it a very powerful weapon. The founder of MTV, Bob Pittman, made a very revealing statement. The most widely watched music channel on television made no bones about the fact that they were aiming at changing the way teenagers think. He said, and I quote, "We're dealing with a culture of teenage babies. They can watch TV, do their homework, and listen to music all at the same time. The strongest appeal you can make is emotional. If you can get their emotions going, make them forget their logic, you've got them. At MTV, we don't shoot for the 14-year-olds, we own them." MTV's founder, Bob Pittman, clearly understood the emotional power of the music media combination to capture the minds of the teenagers. Satan knows it is also the most powerful art form to change cultural norms. Understanding that Satan has weaponized music and media is essential to winning the supernatural battle that we are all in. The messages coming from these popular artists are designed to bring out our carnal nature and make sin seem appealing and acceptable in our culture. Many people have underestimated the power of media and are failing to protect themselves from the war raging around us for the minds of mankind. The Bible says our minds and bodies are to be a temple for God, and God's Spirit wants to dwell in us.
Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are.
By listening to music that was carefully crafted by demonic spirits, we are opening our minds to being inhabited by a spirit that is not God. We are inviting these demonic forces into our lives and defiling the temple that God has created. In this episode, we only touched on a few artists, but there was much more information I could not fit in this video. But we'll cover more on this topic in the future. If you like this episode, you can go back and see the 2 previous episodes, 4 and 5, on media and music. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook and Rumble. Join us for the next episode of Signs of the Times, where we will examine the UFO phenomenon and how it is spiritually significant. Thank you for watching, and God bless.